Welcome back. Today we are talking with Ratna Pawan about operational resilience. Ratna, great first segment there. Lots of good information. You mentioned something about all these different groups, cyber and business continuity and incident management, all doing a great job on their own. And you mentioned bringing them together. So how do we go about bringing them together so that it's, I don't want to say seamless because there'll always be some hiccups, but how do you bring these groups together to work together? And who should do that? And how do we go about doing that?
So, from an ownership perspective, I think it's pretty clear and established that it's the C-suite, the board, the senior management of any organization that kind of owns operational risk and operational resilience. And I think that is not debated anymore right now. But on the ground, from an implementation perspective, who should own it? And I think the answer needs to be split between large organizations out there who can afford to have, and I like this concept of chief resilience officer or chief or heads of resilience and so on. And I think the BCI operational resilience survey also kind of spoke of it. And the fact that heads of resilience has emerged as a designation out there in the industry today,
Mm.
and there are certain organizations who have those. I feel like that's a brilliant opportunity for that one person or team to bring all of these teams together, because Alex, not any one person or team can have the skills across these risk functions to be able to understand them all and put it together.
Mhm.
Because business continuity is a certifiable risk function. I cannot, even for the life of me, even if I attempt to become a cybersecurity specialist in 3 weeks, or an insider risk specialist, or a third party risk specialist, because they are all very, very specific risk types where people have spent years understanding and figuring out how the risk operates and really works. So we should not try to become specialists ourselves. If I was the head of resilience or the chief resilience officer, whatever, in an organization, I wouldn't try to understand all of this risk myself. Over a period of time, I would start understanding how they're related, but I wouldn't understand the depth of it. But what I could and would do is bring all of these specialists on a table on a continual basis. It can't happen in one iteration. It has to be multiple iterations throughout the scope of the organization, right? And
Yeah.
be able to understand how each risk functions, how they are interrelated, how can the metrics and the risk factors, and most importantly the risk assessment, be done to ensure that all of these risks have been understood, right, at a level, so that they can be then addressed, and they can be really we should, like you mentioned sometime back in the last segment about the unknown unknowns. And I think as resilience professionals, we need to have a better grip on that, so that in a few years from now we can say we have, the unknown unknowns are a very small segment. They will always be there, but it's a very small segment out there today.
If you chip away at scenario planning and some of these big guesses that people say, oh, we could have this happen, instead of brushing them off, that could be one of those unknown unknowns that eventually occurs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I like what you said, we can't be specialists in everything. And I think sometimes it comes across as resilience professionals or business continuity professionals or disaster recovery, whatever, have to know everything about everything. And you're right. Some of these industries like information security or cyber, they have their own designations. They have their own guiding bodies and standards and things that are out there. There's no way one person could learn all of this and know all of this. And that maybe that's some of the challenge that some organizations are having, is trying to put it all on the shoulders of a small team and say, you must know everything. Do you think that might be happening some places? Because you've been with large organizations.
So I'll tell you a couple of things here. You know, the first point that you mentioned about business continuity professionals now thinking they are operational resilience professionals, and I have spoken about it in many a podcast and blog and write up, because I feel that that is absolutely, you know, as a professional, you're guiding yourself in the wrong direction. If I was a business continuity professional till some time back, if I'm now calling myself an operational resilience professional and you ask them, what are you doing differently today than you were 2 years from now when you were calling yourself a business continuity professional, there is no different answer. And that is just wrong, because operational resilience, again, then you come back to the fact that are you then saying that you're only doing business continuity really well and your organization has now a whole team up there called operational resilience, which is why you're calling yourself an operational resilience specialist? Because operational resilience is so much more, like we have been discussing in our first segment and so far, right? So if you're not doing any of those enhanced activities, don't call yourself an operational resilience specialist.
Mm.
And you know, unfortunately, out there is no real operational resilience training and so on and so forth, which business continuity incidentally the institute is instantly working on developing right now. But there should be a lot more that goes into becoming an operational resilience specialist.
Mm.
Secondly, with organizations as well, Alex, you know, they are headed in the right direction, they have the right intent to, but because of the complexities attached of, you know, getting IT and cyber and third party and all of these in itself is so complex. Understanding your crown jewels in IT, understanding your critical service providers in third party risk, they are so complex that they are still midway in their journey through all of this. So they
Mhm.
are on the right path, but they are midway in their journey. So right now, as we speak, I don't think any organization in this world, however far across the road they are in their maturity towards operational resilience, are really so well prepared to be able to understand this integrated risk management, which leads to resilience, if that answers.
It does. Yeah, that answers the question. Thank you very much. You mentioned something else that caught my attention. You said the word metrics. What did you mean by metrics, and what should we be reporting on? Not the number of BIAs, I assume.
Oh, no, no. Number of BIAs is just old metrics. Very relevant still, don't get me wrong, but there's I think metrics now needs to move towards a more holistic understanding of the risks that we have been talking about for a very long time now. So there needs to be a revised set of metrics really to understand how the key risk indicators and the key performance indicators that every organization has set for itself, and that itself needs to be again clearly defined, moving from business continuity to operational resilience. So when the metrics really hits the people up there in the C suite or in, you know, the governance forums up there, they have a much better understanding. Sometimes I feel the metrics is just you know, giving you a picture that everybody wants to see, you know,
Mm.
the good picture. But I
Yeah.
think as risk professionals, our story should be about how we can give you the bad picture, how we can more identify what can go wrong, how many unknowns are we grappling with out there, uh, and how we are trying to work on those. And I think it's about how well we give the bad picture more than how we give the good picture. I see a lot of metrics across organizations focused on just giving a lot of you know, the green, the RTG has to
Mhm.
be green because, oh, my, otherwise my management team will be upset with me. But that is where you are as a risk professional. If you want to be popular, don't be a risk professional.
I like that. It's true. I like how you
Yeah.
describe, showing green. It reminds me, I've used the analogy before, like a watermelon. You know, green on the outside, you'll give the appearance everything is rosy and wonderful, everything's going perfect. But when you take that green off, inside things are red. Things aren't the same way. It's just not the way you should be presenting things. And
I
unfortunately,
love it. Allow me to use it next.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, because I think sometimes people are scared to report on these risks. Hey, this risk is bigger than you think, and we're not prepared for it. Well, we can't
Right.
tell our C-suite that, but that's the kind of thing the C-suite wants because that's how you'll get their support to help you address it.
I agree. I agree. They don't want to know number of BIs. I mean,
Yeah.
what does that tell you? It doesn't tell you anything. So yeah, I totally agree. I mean, as risk professionals I think a key skill is how do we identify the wrong things and how do we deliver and the wrong news. And
Mhm. How
so
do how do other areas in the organization get involved with operational resilience? Because I know we've mentioned help desk, IT, some other areas, but other areas that normally may not be a part of operational resilience, like let's say sales or marketing or something. How and why should they kind of pay attention to what's happening with operational resilience?
I think the reason, I think the industry today and the world today has given enough and more reasons out there. And if you really, even for a salesperson and end customer service executive sitting out there really needs to understand what can go wrong within their firm because they are ultimately the ones facing the customer. They are ultimately the ones responsible for responding to queries and so
Mm.
on, and at the end of the day they look stupid if they don't understand what's going on in their organization, right? And therefore it is very important for them to be as in, maybe not involved, the word may not be involved, but at least understand what can go wrong. Because and today, in the world of social media today, it is very important for, there's just so much being spoken and heard right now out there, right? So people really need to, and everybody wants to contribute. So they first need to know before they contribute.
And it's going to help with sales and your reputation anyway, because when events happen, um, you can clearly show that we have addressed them. And sales are, you can turn around and say, our competitor doesn't have this, we do. And if they, to your point, if they can explain it and understand it, well, then that's going to be a bonus for your organization.
Oh, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
So we only have 2 minutes left. Do you have any final thoughts on operational resilience?
Well, my final thoughts on operational resilience is it's not the question of when it's a question of how, it's the question of, you know, the risk is out there, you will be impacted, right, as an
Mhm.
organization. So if you haven't faced it, you will face it. The only answer is preparedness. The only answer is doing it well and doing it now. If you have not started your journey, start it now. If you're in your journey, do it well. Don't treat it as a checkbox just because your regulator is asking you to do it. And i and i think I'll stop there.
I think that a lot of people, because of all the regulations that are coming out, and let's face it, some organizations are getting them hard and fast from many directions. And I think we run the risk of turning our own programs into the tick box exercises just to get these people off our backs so we can hopefully
Absolutely.
find time to move
Absolutely.
forward.
And I think the regulators are very smart out there. Checkbox exercises are not going to satisfy regulators
Mm.
anyways. They are a smarter lot out there today. So you have to do it sincerely and well.
Yeah. And on that note, we've come to the end of our segment about talking about operational resilience with Ratna Pawan. Ratna, thank you so much. In our next segment, we're going to talk about women and resilience, and we will be right back. If you liked that video, thumbs up. If you didn't like that video, thumbs down. But leave me a message and let me know your thoughts. Of course, don't forget to subscribe. And in the meantime, stay prepared, everybody.